Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the second part of our safety series on collection safety. Thank you to all who attended the first webinar on post-collection safety in October. We're excited to have you here today with us to discuss the flip side of that, the importance of safety and collection. By planning to be proactive every day, the industry can help to mitigate those safety issues that can affect employees on a constant basis. Our goal is to bring people together to discuss these issues and safety concerns in order to move in the right direction. We have a great lineup for you with discussions on solid waste safety trends, building a safety culture, great safety culture, a proactive fleet safety program, real OSHA cases, what SWANA is doing in the collection safety space, and elements of a great safety program. Thank you to all of today's speakers, David, Jeff, Jason, Lloyd, Kristyn, and Mike. To read their full bios, please click on the link below. And thank you to today's sponsors as well. Our platinum sponsors, Geotab and Vizia. Our gold sponsors, Meridian Waste and Waste and Recycling Workers Week. And our silver sponsors, ALG Labels and Graphics and RouteSmart. Let's get started. First up is David Biderman, owner of Biderman Consulting LLC. As a safety leader in the waste industry for more than 25 years, he currently helps companies and local governments address safety and sustainability issues, supports their advocacy objectives, and assists technology solutions providers with growing their market share within the industry. David was with the NWA for 18 years, where he was general counsel, vice president for government affairs, and safety director. And he was the executive director and CEO of SWANA from 2015 to 2023. He has testified before numerous federal, state, and local agencies and councils, and has spoken about waste and recycling issues, policies, and trends at numerous international environmental conferences. David, take it away.
Thanks, Angelina. Hello, everybody. It's great to participate in this very important safety event. Let me share my screen so everyone can see what we're going to be talking about today. Um, so um, I have about 10 minutes, so I will speak a little quickly. Again, David Biderman, I'm currently doing work for a number of companies and local governments in the solid waste and recycling industry. I'm here really to talk about four topics. I'm going to review the current safety data, what we know, what we don't know, some of the trends that I'm seeing in the safety space. I'm going to discuss fires because we can't have a safety event in the industry without at least discussing fires for a couple minutes. And then I'm going to end by talking about how local governments and haulers and others can and should be making their safety meaningful and fun, not just something that we have to get through so the guys can get out on the route, and certainly not just to be a box checking the box exercise. So let's start with the safety data first. So I think one of the reasons that Waste Advantage has done such a great job of being proactive in the safety space over the last year and a half or two is the fact that the Bureau of Labor Statistics issued data at the end of last year that indicated that the solid waste industry had experienced an uptick in fatal work events involving workers. What you should see in front of you now is the most recent data that the federal government has issued. So this came out in December of 2024, a year ago, and covers the year 2023. So this is actually the most recent data set for the industry, and it's nearly 2 years old. But what it shows is that while historically the industry had been between fifth and ninth on this list of most dangerous jobs, in 2023, we rose to the level of fourth, which was the highest that it's been in the 18 or 19 years that I've been tracking this data in the industry. And there have been some questions about the veracity, the accuracy of the data, which are, there's accuracy questions with all data about what should be included. But 2023 was not a good year for the industry, but it's the most recent data we have. And so the logical question that many of you are probably asking is, well, what's the more recent data? Well, unfortunately, because of the federal government shutdown, the Bureau of Labor Statistics data that was supposed to come out last month, which would have been the injury data, and the data that is supposed to come out this month, which is the fatality data, and again, that would be for 2024, that's been delayed. So They aren't sure when that information is going to be released. I spoke to the Bureau of Labor Statistics right before Thanksgiving. They suggested that I check back with them right before Christmas. They're hopeful that they'll get a data set out in January, but I'm not 100% confident that's going to happen. Uh, what I can share with you is based on my conversations with solid waste companies, listening to some of the quarterly phone calls that the large national companies have been having with around their earnings, where they talk about their safety improvements over in the recent years. Anecdotally, I believe the frequency of worker fatalities in the industry has declined from that 2023 number. I also have the sense that total incidents have declined as well, of which injuries is a huge piece, right? Incidents are both injuries and illnesses, and injuries is something that obviously we're trying to avoid whenever and wherever possible. But in my conversations with companies and with local governments, there seems to be, at least anecdotally, a decrease since 2023. Now, what do we know more specifically? Well, number one, workplace fatalities in which one of your collection workers is killed is far more likely to happen when you're working for a small company or a local government than if you're with a big company that has, say, 600, 700 trucks or more. So the big regional companies and the big national companies. And the same is true for injury rates and their CSA scores, which is how the DOT tracks, FMCSA tracks compliance. And it's because these larger companies have more rigorous safety programs, they have more resources to put out on safety, and it shouldn't be a surprise that the larger companies have a lower incident rate than small companies. And that's true, by the way, in all industries. It's not waste industry specific. The interesting thing to be aware of is that third party fatalities, that is, when a truck has a fatal collision with a pedestrian, the driver of another vehicle, a bicyclist, a motorcyclist, in recently a wheelchair, somebody in a wheelchair, those are more evenly distributed. That seems to not be disproportionately slanted towards smaller entities, but rather is distributed more broadly. The other thing that I'm seeing is third-party claim costs are increasing. So even while injuries and fatalities seem to be declining, every time a garbage truck has a collision with another vehicle, the cost of that fender bender is increasing because the tech on the truck is, the tech in the car is much more expensive to fix than it was 10 years ago. The $2,000, $3,000 claim of 2015 is now a $10,000 claim. And I'm doing some work for a client where they've had a spat of ten to $20,000 claims, where it's honestly just minor fender benders, but it requires a lot of changes in systems and sensors and technical things in the car, not in the truck. The other thing is that despite the continued surge of mergers and acquisitions and deals occurring in the industry, with larger companies buying smaller companies, that has not yet bent the curve on safety. That has not yet led to an improvement in the industry's overall safety record. And all the technology that we're seeing being brought to the trucks. I'll talk about those in a minute, but telematics and cameras and all sorts of sensors and all sorts of other things. While there are companies and local governments seeing improvements on an individual basis, industry-wide, that has not yet resulted in fewer fatalities for the industry. So I think the jury is out yet on whether or not those are going to result in improvements. The other thing that's a recent phenomenon is we're seeing these very large jury awards, whether it's New York City awarding $50 million to somebody or a jury in Los Angeles awarding $50 million because an LH garbage truck hit somebody. These are very, very large awards. And when I was at NWRA and when I was at SWANA, I kept a file of $1 million plus awards. And there were plenty of them every year. $50 million is a whole new level of ouch if you're a municipal sanitation department or a solid waste company. So what are people doing? How are we dealing with this issue? Well, I'm seeing safety being considered a KPI at a growing number of companies and frankly local governments. It's a key performance indicator now. It's not simply something for the safety person or the risk person to deal with. It's not just a program at many employers. It's really one of the measures by which success is being measured. I was at a company earlier this year where the GM had on his chalkboard several metrics that he's being tracked on, and one of them was a safety metric. Uh, Companies are definitely, and local governments are definitely installing cameras and adding telematics and all sorts of technology. You're seeing a lot more attention paid to routing. Is routing being done safely? Route Smart is an interesting play in that area. Sensors on the trucks, ways to make the trucks safer so that people in the trucks don't get hurt or killed. We continue to see a slow transition from rear loaders, and the EREF study that is happening with NWRA seems to indicate that the majority of fatal incidents in collection occur in connection with rear loaders. It's not that rear loaders cause them, but they're in connection with rear loaders. So what does that mean? It means that someone's riding on the step on the outside of the truck, or it means that somebody's behind the truck and is being struck by a third-party vehicle, or somebody's dumping waste into the back of the truck, or is backed into by the truck, which are the primary causes of worker fatalities in collection in the industry. EREF and I guess NWRA talked about their study at the joint NWRA SWANA meeting, safety committee meeting a couple weeks ago. Hopefully, Kristyn will mention a little bit about that later. It's a 3-year study. They're hopeful to have some real useful information for the industry. They're evaluating 2002 to 2023, so they're looking at 22 years worth of data. Final point that I want to make, or final 2 points I want to make, excuse me, is that number one, we all know the lithium-ion batteries are a real problem in the industry. They're causing fires, not just at recycling facilities, but in the trucks and everywhere else. And there's a lot of communications campaigns going on. There are some regulatory options to get batteries out of the stream if we're willing, if local governments or state governments or the federal government's willing to do it. And in the meantime, we're seeing more drop-off sites. We're seeing more enforcement, or we should be calling for more enforcement. And what you see on your screen now is just a small number of the campaigns or articles that I've seen over the last couple of weeks regarding lithium-ion batteries and the fact that we've done a pretty good job as an industry of alerting the media and others that this is an issue. Now it's important to take the next step and actually do something about it. My last point that I want to make has to do with safety training. Safety training, hopefully you're doing it frequently. It needs to be done consistently, and it needs to be done in a way that's interesting for your attendees. You should be providing some training information, some safety information on at least a monthly basis. Make sure you make the content relevant and timely to the workers. What does timely mean? If you're doing training in December, mention that it's Christmas is coming up and mention that it's gonna, be snowing or icy if you're in the northern half of the United States. Make the safety training personal. And if your workforce includes a lot of people who don't speak English, you need to include some non-English information there. I'm a big fan of using photos and videos when I do safety training. This is just one example of a photo that I use. This is a way to personalize safety training, so your workers are reminded that they go home to families that are depending on them, and this is a way to make your driver and your helper think a little bit more about safety. This is sort of what I would call a positive message. There are also negative messages. If you're trying to remind your drivers to stay alert when they're driving the garbage truck, there's nothing better than a picture like this to demonstrate the unfortunate consequences of not paying attention when you're driving a truck. And if you're trying to get them to wear their seatbelt, a picture of something like this, where you see a garbage truck upside down in New Jersey, right outside the Lincoln Tunnel, yet the person who is driving this truck wasn't killed, that's a signal or a way to signal that, hey, maybe you drivers and helpers need to be wearing your safety belt. So use photos and videos in your safety training. It makes it more interesting for the workforce, and I think it'll result in better outcomes for all of what you're trying to do. So that was what I was here to talk about. We're holding questions until the end. My contact information is up on the screen. I'll put it in the chat as well. Now what I'd like to do is introduce our next speaker. So let me introduce Jeff Martin. Jeff Martin has 30 years of leadership experience in operations and safety. He spent 25 years at Waste Management, where I got to know him, advancing from sales, operations, and safety to become the president of Waste Management Safety Services. He currently serves as vice president of safety at Casella and he'll be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is how to build a positive safety culture. Jeff, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Well, great. Thank you, David. It's a pleasure seeing everybody. A lot of familiar names and faces out on the crowd, and a great opportunity to be here. I'm going to share what I think are some opportunities you might want to consider if you don't already have them and excelling within your own safety culture. This is the spirit of stealing shamelessly. And over the years, I've worked with many great folks, many that were on this call. And safety is a game in which we all share SOPs and best practices to help save lives, save dreams. If we were doing that in sales, we'd be in a lot of trouble. But when we're talking about saving lives and protecting the communities we serve, it's a different ballgame. It's a hell of a responsibility. For all of you, especially in leadership that are on today's call, thank you. The one thing, with David's tremendous presentation there, with the fatality stats is it can be disheartening and frustrating as an industry, because we are all working so hard to protect not only our employees, but the communities we serve, fellow motorists, etc. And you know what? Everyone is doing their level best and more to do that. And sadly, we don't have a lives saved metric. If we did, I think we'd have a lot to celebrate. So, although we only hear sadly about the fatality rates and so forth, stay confident in your hearts and minds and souls that we are absolutely making progress each and every day. Even as things change, technology, certainly environments. You heard David talk about the lithium ion challenge. Things are changing, and we've got to change with them and accelerate with or past those challenges. Next slide. So a little bit about Casella, predominantly on the East Coast, expansion growth company. The Casella brothers right there celebrated the family's 50th anniversary in the service, so in the waste and industry service. And just a great company, great family, and I was very pleased to join the team in August. Next. As you can see, predominantly up in the Northeast, but also stretching down towards the Carolinas, and with expected growth to continue. As many of you know who are involved with acquisitions, they're exciting, they're fast-paced, but they come with a lot of change, obviously. And so you've got to be very nimble. You also have to be very good communicators, as many know. And you really have to have systems established that enable you to rinse and repeat, if you will. So programs and those systems, and really focusing on the people, the programs, and the performance management really allows a whole better orientation, if you will, to the organization. So it's something we concentrate on from a safety perspective, and we'll continue to do so. Next. So what I like to do is share these, as I mentioned before, some lessons learned, but also SOPs and best practices that many of today's great companies are doing this within the industry and outside the industry, other industries. As many of us know, hey, what's important to our bosses is important to us, right? But it is very clear when there is a mission, a vision from the top, but also a mission as well that's supported by performance management and is twice as much recognition as there is accountability. Things happen, and they happen in a great way. It's a we and us approach, and that's different from a they and them. And that's why, making sure vision and mission statements are totally separate, totally different, but well established and understood. And keep them simple. They should be able to be remembered by the front lines as easily as the senior leadership. And that's where you really start to make a difference, is that when everybody does understand that, there is an understanding that everyone owns safety. It's not just the safety guy over in that office. And that's where culture's really changed, when you see that momentum change in the organization, where they actually decrease the number of safety personnel because you've got managers at various levels that have accepted safety and coaching safety as part of their daily routine. And you got to make it personal. All those in the audience know today that some of the best achievements you've made with individuals, groups, programs, and other opportunities. It's when you all really made it personal. When people have to do it as a condition of employment, it's not as fun as when they have the belief system in their heart that they want to do it. Get to a whole nother level, and that's why it's so important to win hearts, to win minds. And David brought up some great photos. Those are the little things that add up to the big things. So when you're able to have a great opportunity, to work with people, being hard on facts, but easy on people, it really starts to further create that we and us approach rather than they and them. Making sure that when you do have coaching, it is done with a continuous improvement mindset, but also it's two-way. It's constructive. There's opportunity for feedback because you present open-ended questions, not assumptions, and allow the individual to share their thoughts. Then there's some solution. A lot of times we're too quick, and I'm the first and foremost guilty one, to offer the solution or directive. But if you just ask, they'll tell you. And once they tell you, it's theirs. They own it, as you well know, and then they take it from there as their own. And so one of the opportunities is, as you look at your safety cultures, is making sure that you're taking a building block approach. You only have so many people, so many resources, and you only can build and introduce so many programs and systems, and make sure that they are absolutely sustaining themselves and starting to deliver the desired returns before you start with other programs to the field. We all know those frontline managers, especially in the waste industry. They have full plates times two on some days. And so when they see new programs, they think, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And we're already doing that. And so you have to think of it from their perspective and what's reasonable and achievable and how it's going to help them and or whoever that audience is, how it's going to help basically deliver a safer, more efficient, and greater customer service solution to our business. One of the ways you can do that, one of my favorite ways, is having programs that are field created and field validated. And so when you're able to pull together and build what I would call a guiding coalition team, that's a various leaders from various levels. That's the important thing, various levels, but leaders that are in the collections and post-collection side, the fleet side, recycling side. And when you're able to pull them together, when you're working on a specific project, whether it's revamping your OBA system or your coaching, and you're able to bring a full, few number of those folks into a room for, a couple of days, and you take a good fresh look. Ideas come out, and as I mentioned before, when they start to create, they have an ownership attitude. Then, more importantly, you're making sure that no stones are unturned for those folks in the field, and that's very important because when you're able to roll out a field to the field, you're able to say this wasn't three people in the corporate office with a consultant that built this. This is John over there and Sally over here. They were all them. They're part of the field, part of the leadership, and they're the ones that helped us create it. Even when you have drivers involved, you have. You have operators involved, technicians involved. They really make sure we're checking every box and keeping us honest, if you will. And so I love that the field creator, field validator approach. It's more work, but boy, it's satisfying, gratifying. The people that are engaged with it, they feel like $1 million too. And that's the other thing. Programs are living, breathing programs, and so we must continuously adapt because things are changing. Technology is changing, environments are changing, challenges are changing. Think of everything that's had to change on the MRF side with regards to lithium-ion batteries, transfer stations, with disposal, and even landfills for that matter. So think about how they've had to continue to adapt, and that's why technology so important is that it allows you to not only better the safety game, but make sure that you're offering the solutions, whether it's in-cab video safety technology or the ability to use fire over to detect and extinguish fires. That's the sort of opportunity where you can really start to put some money and certainly the company support behind programs. Continuous improvements mindset is really important, and it's one of the things that that I've found to be truly effective, both at the driver and frontline level, but also at the management level. We just want to get better a little bit each and every day. We're not asking for the home run this week, the grand slam next month. We're asking that we get a little bit better in everything we do when it comes to safety, service, and savings around efficiency and fleet management. And that's all it is. We just want to get a little bit better. We don't want shortcuts. No one's ever said to go fast. No one's ever said not to spend in the shop on repairs. We're talking about continuous improvements and eliminating wasteful steps and expenses. Spirited coaching. Hey, we all know when we have those effective two-way conversations where it's consensus building. At the end, you've built trust with one another. You feel good about the conversation. Perhaps it was a difficult one, but it was one that needed to be had, or it was a solution one. And as we all know, and I learned early on in my career the hard way, those frontline drivers, those operators and technicians, they have the answers. And if we can just stop and listen and ask the right questions, they'll come up with the solutions, and we'll be amazed. And so that's one thing that I really love is bring that spirit and being truly engaged with the conversation, 100% engaged with that person, understanding what their interests are, their family, everything, and really get into a whole nother level of building trust. One of the other thing is that I think is really taken great root in our industry is we've got a lot of great leaders. And one thing you notice is that we've got great leaders who have been around a long time. And one of the attributes they have is they lead by example. They do what they say what they do, and there's nothing in between. There's no second guessing where someone stands. And so people are always watching us as leaders. So keep that in mind. I mentioned earlier the importance of recognition and accountability. I believe in that at all levels, and I think there should be we should strive for at least 2-to-1 recognition to accountability. We know where we have opportunities to improve, and people are in fact doing that. Well, you know what? Spend a lot of time on the recognition people, but also obviously on the accountability folks too, and sites and management teams. And you know what? As I mentioned, sadly there's not a live save metric. And unfortunately, there is no championship moment in the safety game. There are achievements. It's having a great TRIR last month, maybe beating your goal for the year. Those are great, and we should celebrate them. Great opportunities. But with that continuous improvement mindset, it's really it's not for the faint of heart. The safety game. I think a lot of us have talked about that privately. We're a different crew. The safety folks. You've got to have a heart, a spirit, and a will to persevere. The stuff we deal with, unfortunately, 75% of the time, unfortunately, is a challenge in a negative way. But when you can do that momentum shift where it's a 50-50, it's much more rewarding. So we're proactive instead of reactive is always the better way. Next. And with that, here is my email. Please feel free to contact me if you'd like to discuss, network, share other best practices, SOPs. I'm also on LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect. And thank you very much, Angelina and David.
Thank you, Jeff and David, for that amazing kickoff to the webinar. We're going to turn our focus to technology and training, and we have two great speakers for you. First up is Jason Pumphrey, Business Development Manager at Geotab, who will discuss how to integrate data for a proactive fleet safety program. Jason.
No, you're good. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that, but good afternoon, and I'm super excited to be here today. I'll be talking about integrating vehicle data or vehicle driver and contextual data, a unified view for a proactive fleet safety program. But first, just a quick introduction again. Jason Pumphrey, Business Development Manager at Geotab. I specialize in fleet management solutions for the waste management industry, and I have over 18 years of experience in business development management, solution delivery, and client relations. And I really enjoy helping organizations build safe and efficient operations through technology and data. Now, enough about me, a little bit about Geotab. Geotab is the global leader in connected transportation and asset tracking solutions. We help fleets make informed decisions based on data-driven insights. Now to the fun stuff. All right, welcome to the blueprint for a truly proactive safety program. I want to open with an impactful statement. Building a proactive safety program requires moving beyond a single tool and siloed data. It requires unifying data to see the full and complete picture. The critical first step in seeing that full picture is unifying three essential streams of data: the driver, the vehicle, and the contextual data. They all feed into that central box, which is that unified view. So why is this important? Because only with a unified view, you'll be able to move beyond a reactive model where you're only investigating after an incident to a proactive, predictive safety model. So I'm here today to show you how to integrate these raw data streams and transform them into actionable predictive insights that will dramatically reduce risk across the entire organization. Specifically, at the end of the presentation, you'll learn the exact steps to implement this unified data strategy for key outcomes such as like identification of risk areas and high-risk drivers, enabling proactive driver coaching, achieving immediate risk mitigation during incidences, and enforcing predictive maintenance to keep all your assets safe. Finally, you'll discover how this integrative approach moves your entire organization from like that reactive incident response culture to a proactive safety first culture, which is the ultimate goal here. But to truly succeed, a modern fleet safety program must be built on unified data. This foundation is the non-negotiable difference between a good and great fleet performance. So, what does a true safety blueprint look like in an operation? Well, it starts by recognizing that safety isn't just a one metric. It's actually built on three distinct data pillars. To move from reactive to proactive, we have to stop looking at these in silos and start unifying them. First, on the left, we have the vehicle data. This is the baseline. It's the state of the asset itself. Before a truck leaves the yard, we need to know, is it safe? We aren't just looking for a breakdown, we're looking for leading indicators, things like tire pressure alerts or check engine lights. And in our industry, we dig a little deeper onto like specialized inputs, like the bin lift arm. Is it engaged when the vehicle's moving? If we can capture that data in real time, we aren't just like fixing trucks, we're actually preventing mechanical failures that cause accidents, right? The next, we look at the far right. That's the driver data. That's the human factor. We're all human. We know that a majority of the incidents stem from behavior. Traditional programs might look at speeding, but a proactive program digs a little bit deeper. Things like harsh cornering, swerving, tailgating, or seatbelt usage. These are behavioral actions to collisions. Collecting this data is very vital because it highlights risk before it becomes a statistic. But here's the game changer. It's that center pillar, right? The contextual data. This is the piece that most fleets are missing. If I tell you that a driver had a harsh braking event, it might sound bad. But if I give you the contextual data behind it, like there was a road hazard or an obstacle was detected, the story changes a little bit. Maybe the driver didn't make a mistake. Maybe the driver made a brilliant maneuver that saved a life. That contextual data, knowing if there was a pedestrian activity or checking for distracted driving, like eating or phone usage, gives us kind of like that why behind that what. Um, but if you look at the bottom of the slide, you'll see where this is all headed. It's that unified view. Implementing a unified strategy means engaging a platform that ingests all three streams simultaneously. When we connect the vehicle, like what's going on mechanically, the driver, what actions were taken, and the context, like what the environment was, we eliminate all the guesswork and we stop punishing drivers for false positives and we start coaching them on the real risks. Now, we've established that unified view, connecting the vehicle, driver, and context. We move to the crucial part, converting that data into tangible results. This is the insights, analysis, and action loop that powers our proactive safety program. Insights are where the platform automatically correlates all that data. It's not just harsh braking, it's harsh braking while the bin arm was moving and a pedestrian was detected. This depth of understanding is pretty vital. This leads us directly to the action items that are at the bottom of the slide, starting with the human element, identification of high-risk drivers and targeted coaching. First, and probably argumentatively the most important one, is uh is that, oh my gosh, I'm losing it. Identification of high-risk drivers. Uh, the unified platform aggregates all the behavioral events that we talked about in the last slide, like harsh cornering, rolling stops, phone usage, and combines them with the context, scoring every single driver independently. This allows us to stop making safety decisions based on a story or like a worst crash, and instead starts focusing on the top 5% of the drivers who are consistently exhibiting the riskiest yet correctable habits. This precision is what enables the targeted coaching. Instead of your generic safety videos for everyone to enjoy, we use the data for laser-focused interventions. We can pull up a driver safety scorecard and say, hey, yo, John, your score's low, and the data shows that you frequently have rolling stops and harsh cornering on roads. When you show John the video, the data collected and the context, all that unified data, it provides the why that specific action was dangerous and how to correct it. This does make the training effective, objective, and supportive. It's about building more of that partnership with your drivers and not just penalizing them. Now, on the fleet side, a proactive model ensures your vehicles are always safe and reliable through the predictive maintenance. We stop waiting for trucks to break down on the roads, which is expensive and dangerous. Instead, we continuously monitor things like the fault DTC codes and tire pressures. A low severity fault that a reactive shop might ignore for days is immediately flagged in our system, analyzed for potential risks, and prioritized. By addressing these issues before they lead to breakdowns, like fixing maybe a tiny leak that becomes a blowout, we're keeping those assets safe, avoiding costly roadside emergency repairs, and ensuring we complete all the routes without any interruptions, right? Now, this unified data strategy delivers direct benefits unique to the waste industry. First one, the automated contamination detection. Using the contextual data from cameras, we can instantly flag and set alerts on banned items in bins, which protects your drivers, that expensive processing equipment, and also to ensures compliance. Another one is your blind spot elimination. By integrating multiple cameras and sensors, we dramatically reduce blind spots, a major hazard in the urban collection, protecting like your workers, pedestrians, and then, of course, cyclists like me on the roads, not knowing where I'm going. But a unified data strategy is not just built or just about collecting more data. It's about converting that data into a continuous cycle of predictive risk mitigation, creating safer drivers, more reliable vehicles, and safer operations. But the true breakthrough in a fleet safety program comes when you combine video with two other critical streams of data, like the vehicle diagnostics and driver behavior data. Alone, a video clip is just a recording and a data spike is just a number. But when they're unified in a fleet intelligence platform, you create irrefutable context. Imagine a hard braking event, right? On its own, the vehicle data will tell you that there was just a sudden stop, but the unified approach shows the reason why. The video shows that a car cut off your driver. The driver data confirms that the operator reacted in a professional and safe manner, and the vehicle data confirms that the systems performed as expected. This irrefutable context offers two massive advantages, starting with driver protection, like defense against small false claims. In the event of an accident, a unified data set is your best defense. It provides clear timestamp record that can immediately exonerate your driver from false claims, reducing litigation costs and protecting your company's reputation, which is super important. Another one is fair and transparent coaching, right? Drivers often resist coaching because they feel like the data is unfair or lacks the contents. When you can sit down with a driver and show them the exact video combined with the objective data, like say the speed or the steering input, the environmental conditions, the coaching conversation immediately shifts. It becomes more fair, transparent, and focused on improvement and not just an accusation. Ultimately, this integrative approach moves you from that reactive gotcha moment to a more positive, proactive safety culture. Your drivers recognize that this technology isn't a surveillance tool. We don't care where you're going. Well, we do, but because you got to pick up stuff and get everybody home safely. But it's a shield that backs them up when they do the right thing and provides a clear guidance when they need to improve on safety. This sense of fairness and transparency is essential for driver retention and for achieving fleet-wide buy-in for your fleet safety program. So ultimately, To truly succeed, a modern fleet safety program must be built on this unified data. This is the foundation this foundation is the non-negotiable difference between good and great fleet performances. Geotab, we have headquarters all over the globe. Here in United States, we're located in Atlanta. I'm here in Boise, Idaho. And then lastly, let's stay connected. I will send over my contact information, but so happy to be here today, and I hope to connect in the future.
Thank you so much, Jason. Next up is Lloyd Andrew, President of EnvirOSH Services, talking about the value of safety training and some real OSHA cases. Lloyd?
Okay, did we get the sharing correct? Let's see. Make sure I get this. How's that look, Angelina? That look right?
That looks right now, yes.
Okay, let me hold on one second. All right. So what we're going to talk about, hold on. I've got to go back out, try a different one. Small technical problems. It was interesting to hear that he's also a cyclist, because I am too. So maybe that's something about cyclists in this business that we all want to make sure we don't get run over by the trash trucks. I'm not sure. I'm still not getting this layout right.
On
Okay.
our end, the slides are full screen. There's no notes or anything.
Yeah, but I don't have my notes. Okay. Well, I'm going to do it a different way, maybe. Okay. Well, I want to talk about today is collection company safety while I've settled around and try to get the this taken care of correctly. The Well, well, okay, I'm going to have to go with what I got here. All right, okay. Can you all see that correctly now, Angelina?
Yes.
All right, let me move it over here. All right. Okay, so thank you for inviting me to participate in this collection company safety webinar. What I want to talk about is their fatalities that OSHA investigates. And I'm only able to cover 3 fatalities due to the time constraints that we've got here. So is this showing just the screens, Angelina? Just the...
Yep.
Okay. As David talked about, this is the 2023 data. And what I want to mention is that this it was taken from the Census of Fatal Occupational Injuries for 2023. There were 41 fatalities. And what's important to understand is that this is only OSHA investigated fatalities. That OSHA regulates employee health and safety on the workplace. It does not regulate things that occur on the road. So OSHA has jurisdiction over off-highway loading and unloading activities, and usually in areas where other vehicles are operating, which accounts for a number of these fatalities. What I did is I went through and then pulled out.
Lloyd, you're still on the first screen. If you want to go to if you're trying to get to the second one.
Thank you. Is it still now? Is it advancing?
There you go. Perfect.
Okay. So what I want to do today is really cover. Thank you. Drill down into why did these fatalities occur, and what can we do to prevent their reoccurrence, and are there safety procedures or process improvements that we can implement in your operation to prevent these type of fatalities from occurring. And my objective is to provide you information for your tailgate safety meetings, your monthly safety training classes, and similar types of training events. So, and then finally, I want to introduce you to a system that can help you improve your training and make it a little easier to follow and maybe help you with assisting with your safety training. So what I want to do now is go ahead and get started on the first event. The first one is related to a fatality that occurred, a riding step fatality. In December of 2024, a helper or a swamper, depending on what part of the country you're in, was assisting a driver in backing up a truck on a cul-de-sac. He attempted to jump onto the rear riding step of the truck while it was backing, while another employee was operating the hopper. The employee was jumping onto the step, slipped from the step, and was crushed by the truck's rear duals. So that's the event. And if, I would be remiss in talking about a collection company safety seminar if I didn't cover the ANSI standards. This fatality occurs way too often within our industry. There's a SWANA study that indicates that this is one of the #1 causes of fatalities within the industry related to rear loaders and riding steps. So the ANSI standards, ANSI Z245.1, covers the safety requirements for mobile collection vehicles. And these ANSI standards are industry consensus standards developed by professionals where we all agree for the protection of our workers that these are the recommended minimum safe work practices that waste collection and recycling companies should follow. When someone's on the rear riding step, what the standard states is the driver must stay below 10 miles an hour and that the driver is not to drive more than 0.2 of a mile, which is about 3 football fields. So it's not a long way. And he's not to reverse if someone's on the riding step. Now notice that I put that responsibility on the driver. Too often we blame the helpers for these type of events. And the helper is responsible for some of it, but the driver's in the main control. He's the one driving the truck. And I'm not the only one putting responsibility on drivers. Last month, Houston jury upheld a court ruling convicting a rear end load driver of manslaughter and sentenced the driver to 6 years in jail for backing over a pedestrian. So this can be very serious type of event. Also want to mention a couple of other items that are in the ANSI standard. One is to ensure that no one gets on or off the riding step unless the vehicle is completely stopped. Ensure that workers face the vehicle and ride with both hands on the handholds. Ensure that no one rides in the rear hopper and that no one attempts to collect refuse while on the riding step. I also want to dig a little deeper into this type of event and what can we do to prevent it, okay? How did your drivers learn their routes? Well, it probably started by giving one driver a map and say, go pick up the trash in this area. And then that driver taught the next driver. And then that driver taught your current driver on how they're running the route. My question is, do you have a safe routing program? Has anyone who is experienced in safely laying out a route reviewed with your drivers how to run their routes? There's software available to help with this, but if you can't afford the software, are you minimizing your left turns and maximizing your right turns? Are they avoiding collecting trash on busy streets during rush hour? Are we double siding? When they're working a dead end street, is the driver and helper been instructed on whether to walk down the street, have the driver back down that street, or to make a U-turn on the cul-de-sac? So, you need to have that laid out and explain to the drivers and helpers how to run those. And those rare instances when you may be backing down the street, have you instructed the drivers to get into the cab? Are your supervisors out there conducting observations and making notes on route sheets and communicating with the drivers and helpers in a positive coaching manner to help them safely run their routes? And then the other one is, how many stops do you have on your route? 800 stops on a manual rear load route. That's a lot of stops. And that number is really dependent on, is it rural? Is it city? Time of year? Is there a bunch of leaf waste, yard waste out there? Is it realistic to think the drivers don't have to rush to finish during the day? And those you need to, have those gut check conversations with you and your production team on, is that real? When you hear a supervisor tell a driver, this is a really heavy route today, and it's going to take you all day to finish, and you probably got too many stops in that route, and you need to make some adjustments. And then do you have written safety procedures and processes in place to address these risks and address specifically the ANSI riding step requirements? And are you sure that you're providing training on those ANSI riding step requirements and documenting that training? Next fatality I want to talk about is falling roll-off box. The second fatality occurred when hoisting a roll-off box onto the rails at a hazardous waste site when they were retrieving an 8-yard roll-off box using a winch and cable system. While pulling the box onto the rails, the box started to fall off. The employee ran away from the truck to avoid getting hit by the falling roll-off box and was hit by a passing truck. So what happened here? What can we learn from this event? Well, why was a container placed next to a road where there are trucks traveling at a high rate of speed? Do you have a safe container placement program? Have you provided training for your sales team, your container delivery drivers, your roll-off drivers on where to safely place container? Has someone explained to them what types of hazards to look for when they're putting containers out? Are there likely to be pedestrians in the area? If so, what time of day are those pedestrians there? Are there moving or parked vehicles in the area? How will the truck enter and exit the customer's property to service that container? Does he have to back onto a busy road? Are there overhead hazards to contend with? And what's the condition of the driving surface? And if there are risks that we identify, are those noted on a route sheet, including the time of day when it's safe or not safe to service that container? Are there schools nearby? Is it rush hour? Would the sun be in the passing motorist's eyes? Is it shift change on that particular customer's location? The other issues, why did the box fall off the rails? Was the box overloaded? Was it not evenly loaded? And should he just left it? Was the ground soft and the truck started to tilt over and slide off the rails? Were the container and rails mismatched? And so dispatch sent out the wrong truck to pick up that box. Was the equipment being properly maintained in a good working condition in the box, or was the box damaged and got hung up on the truck frame when it was being hoisted? Was there a hoist failure? Were the box wheels lubricated and the rails lubricated to make sure they're working? And finally, training. Why did the employee keep winching up the box when it was starting to fall off the rails? That's probably something he should have noticed as it was going up. So again, have you done that training? Is that training documented? Make sure that that's there. The third fatality we want to talk about occurred in a truck shop. In September, a shop mechanic and co-worker were conducting repairs on the hydraulic system of a grabber arm. The grabber arm was elevated, supported by a metal pole, while the employee was attempting to repair a leak. The employee loosened the fitting, releasing the hydraulic pressure, causing the support pole to fall, which allowed the grabber arm to come down, killing the shop mechanic. So what happened here? Well, clearly the metal support pole being used for this job was not the correct pole. Was it a homemade stand? Unfortunately, I know of many similar types of fatalities. I was at a shop where they were holding up a rear end load tailgate using a drive shaft from an old truck. Obviously, a drive shaft's not properly weight rated and not designed for that purpose. So I'd encourage you to go out and do an inspection of your shop during the second shift or whenever your mechanics are working and see what they're using for supports. It's always recommended, obviously, to lower the equipment components prior to servicing or maintenance, but sometimes that's not possible. So I'd encourage you to go out there and ask a few common maintenance tasks on how mechanics are supporting raised roll-off rails, raised rear end and front end load tailgates, how they're supporting raised front end load forks and torque tubes, and side loader grab arms or buckets. And the reason I mention all these, I know of a fatality that occurred with every one of these, unfortunately. Does the truck manufacturer provide anything for the maintenance of these type of things? A bracer, a support bar, are they functional? Again, look into the truck manufacturer's operator's manual for this type of information. And then the safety culture comes to concern on this one. There were 2 people involved in this job. Why didn't the other employee say, that's probably not the best way to support that bucket, that grab arm? They should have recognized that hazard prior to. And then do you have OSHA required equipment specific hazardous energy control written procedures for these maintenance and servicing activities? That's required by OSHA. And then have you got documentation, again, on training related to this? So, and kind of wrap up these 3, what can we do to prevent similar fatalities? Well, first, safe routing. Provide verbal and written instructions on how to safely run routes. Enforce that ANSI rear riding step requirements. People tell me they never be able to pick up the route if we follow those ANSI standards. And my response is, do you know why we continue to be one of the most hazardous industries out there? It's because of these type of attitudes. People keep saying, well, we can't run a route that way. We need to start saying, what can we do to make the industry safer? And these are the procedures written by safety professionals, these ANSI riding step requirements to prevent exactly these type of fatalities. The second one, safe container placement, ensuring that workers are placing containers and understand that it's their responsibility when they lay those out, sales or whoever, to identify those hazards and place the containers on the customer's property where it can be safely serviced. And then making sure you're given the proper equipment for the job, that it's being appropriate, whether that's the roll-off container itself or the maintenance support stands. And developing those written hazardous energy control procedures to make sure that those maintenance and service activities can be performed safely. Do they have the right equipment? And then most importantly is to get your supervisors out there observing. They've got to get out there and observe employees. Are they enforcing those safety procedures in a positive coaching manner, not a negative gotcha type? And finally, ensuring your employees are adequately trained for the jobs that we ask them to do. A lot of these fatalities can be prevented by training, particularly waste industry specific training. Some challenges when conducting safety training within our industry or we've got high turnover. Requires frequent training. We got drivers and mechanics starting all hours of the night. Collection systems are different, requiring different training for different drivers. Much of the standard safety training is generic and not applicable to the hazards we face. So what's the solution here? Well, one is to use a online training provider that's teed up with a LMS management system. And you need to locate a provider that can provide custom-built courses explicitly designed for the waste industry. Online training is available. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Drivers can take the training class, whether it's 2 a.m. front load driver, 6:30 rear load driver, or 4 p.m. Mechanic working on Saturday. These online training can be self-paced, so people learn at their own speed, and you can assign specific courses to the individuals, so your front load drivers don't have to watch a course about rear load or riding step safety. And then finally, select the system with that integrated LMS that can track the training easily for you, which tracks which training courses they completed, which drivers need to complete additional courses. With an affordable LMS system, you can get that good documentation that they were trained. So if like an agency wants to know what training they were given, you've got more than just a piece of paper with a heading that says lockout, tag out, and a bunch of signatures on a page. You can give the inspector the training course, have them go through it and show specifically that they were trained, for instance, on not to stand on the rear riding step when backing. So kind of finally, here's my contact information. I know I went through pretty quickly today, but if you have further questions about safety issues, there's my contact information. But if you're looking for an affordable waste industry specific training program that's tied to an LMS system, you can contact Earl Henry, VP of Sales for Waste Industry. That's all I've got, Angelina.
Thank you so much, Lloyd. Great information. We're going to switch gears for our next speaker. Kristyn Oldendorf, Senior Director of Public Policy and Communications at SWANA, will be giving us safety updates as well as going over some programs and resources that attendees can take advantage of. Kristyn?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you having me here today. And thank you to the other speakers. These have been some really helpful updates here today. Good information. So I will be sharing, just going through this kind of quickly, some safety updates from SWANA, as well as some resources for you all to be aware of. So a little about SWANA for anyone who might not be familiar. We are a professional association for anyone in any part of the waste resource management industry, representing all factors of public sector, private sector. We have student members, nonprofits, researchers. So we really bring everybody together so that all our members can learn from each other and really collaborate across the industry. What you see here are our 4 key pillars. So we are really focused on prioritizing safety, championing sustainability, promoting professional opportunities, and delivering value to our members. We do have 47 chapters across the US and Canada. We have a Pacific Island chapter and a Caribbean chapter. And so those chapters also have safety ambassadors, which I'll be talking about in a little bit here. And we'll really look at how we can learn from one another across geographies on promoting safety. So we have a number of kind of ongoing safety resources. I think many of you are probably familiar with this, but we have the weekly Safety First newsletter, where we have different safety tips. We have the I Am SWANA newsletter, which goes out to members and often has different longer, maybe safety articles or updates. We have a new resource called Safety Tips and Tricks that's now available on our website. And we really get information out through our safety ambassadors and our safety committee. So those are really important roles within SWANA, volunteer roles, and we appreciate their work. And many of you might be familiar with the SWANA courses and certifications. So probably the most well-known one is MOLO, the Manager of Landfill Operations. But we have several others. We have Transfer and Collections. We have a newer course around PFAS management. We have courses on recycling. And many of these courses are currently in the process of being updated, so that's exciting. And they all factor in safety and have some specifics in them, like the MOLO course, for example, has details about how spotter safety at landfills and how to get the public around safely on landfills. So those courses are really great resources as well. Many of this can be found on our safety resource page. So just a little more about safety first. The email that goes out links to a flyer, which is easy to print and hang up in your facility. As we go and visit members and view facilities, we often do see this flyer that's hung up. And we focus on different topics. I chose distracted driving as an example since we are talking about collections today, but we do all different types of topics in safety first. And I'll just put a call out to this group if you ever have an idea for a topic. Whether it be something that you want to see more information about or that you have information that you want to share, please feel free to reach out to me. We are always looking for relevant topics to share in this. We also have what we call the 5 to stay alive tips. So we have some specifically for collection employees. So again, this is really easy to just print and hang up in your facilities as reminders for people to look at every day. The QR code here will take you to our safety resource page where you can find many of the resources I'll be talking about. This SWANA safety tips and tricks is brand new. We just rolled this out at our conference last month at Archon. So this is compiling a lot of the safety first topics that we have throughout the year and is putting them together by topic. So if you are looking specifically as we approach winter, maybe you want some reminders for your team about safe winter driving, you can go to the winter driving section and find some tips on that. So we have different topics. There's driving safety, but there's also facility safety, workplace health, preventing slips, trips, and falls. So lots of different categories to choose from. So it's easy to find, easy to reference. And at the end, we have other references that link to OSHA and other documents so that you can learn more. So definitely encourage you to check this out. This is free for SWANA members. You just need to be logged in order to download it, but you can get to it with the QR code here. Okay, the SWANA Safety Pledge. I just want to mention this is a pledge we continue to push out. It's really important that we continue to share reminders with everyone we know about our safety pledge. This is sort of a personal commitment to safety for yourself and for your coworkers, for everyone you know. You can take the pledge online if you, again, scan this QR code. We also have a safety postcard that you can print. So if you are doing an in-person activity, that's a nice resource where you can print and actually hand out this pledge in person at your site. And we ask for that printed one, we ask that people sign it and then just kind of keep it as a personal reminder for themselves. And I'll note that that pledge is available in several languages. In Safety First, we also put out in 3 languages, so that's a good resource there. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about backing safety as we are focused on collections today. So as David mentioned at the beginning, EREF is working on a study that's really digging into safety data from the last 20 years. So it's looking at all the specifics that happen around different incidents. And we did get some preliminary results of that when we met at the safety standards meetings at Archon last month. It's showing a lot of, kind of what we have suspected, that riding steps can be very dangerous. The rear end loaders can be very dangerous, especially as workers are getting on and off the vehicles and, seeing issues with traffic driving around those workers and not being safe. That's how many fatalities are happening. So reminders around, being safe around the riding steps and thinking about if you are using rear loaders, what are the different practices and reminders you can take to keep your employees safe there. So EREF, there will be more information coming out about those trends and what they're seeing as they dig into the data. So this is just a reminder now that, there are resources available. We're also seeing a lot of incidents related to backing up. So again, on our safety resource page, there's a guidance document about backing up safety. We are seeking to update that guide. So again, if anyone, has a lot of experience with safety tips related to backing, and you're interested in helping update this guide, please let us know. We are looking for support there. And just a reminder, backup cameras and some of the technologies that, have been talked about today are obviously very useful tools in preventing those types of accidents. Okay, I'll keep going here in the interest of time. Just a note there that we are seeing lots of incidents related to the riding steps and the backing. So kind of paying attention, extra attention to those types of incidents to prevent them. All right, I mentioned our safety ambassadors. So each of our 47 chapters has should have at least one safety ambassador, and they often help lead these hauler safety outreach events. So the goal here is to get out in person to different local facilities to interact directly with the drivers and their teams. So this just happened earlier this year. This was actually in Ohio. SWANA was one of our great supporters of ARCON. They held this hauler safety outreach event where they handed out guidance and safety guides, water, snacks to kind of, have that conversation with drivers and remind them of different safety resources and a lot of times of the site specific safety guidelines. So if it's a landfill or a transfer station that has its own specific guidance, sharing some of that. So these events have been really popular. They're a good way to connect directly. In June, during National Waste Recycling Workers Month, we saw a lot of these events happening. So it's a good opportunity to both show appreciation for the work they're doing and to get some resources out. So the safety ambassadors, again, here's our Rocky Mountain team doing a hauler outreach event in Colorado earlier this year. The safety ambassadors are really key in getting information out and sharing information and really being that resource. So if an incident does happen locally, or maybe there's a question about a local safety regulation or something like that, the safety ambassadors can serve as that key point of contact to kind of find answers or discuss it with the team and with the chapter. So we appreciate the work of the safety ambassadors and always looking to have more people involved in safety there. I did want to touch on our product safety statement. If anyone joined the last Waste Advantage webinar, I talked about this more, so I'll just touch on it briefly here. We are still looking for anyone who wants to support this, but we are seeing fires in collection vehicles, which is really scary if you think about a vehicle being, sitting in traffic and suddenly having a fire in the load packer and having to dump with the public around. Very dangerous. So we are trying to raise awareness about lithium-ion batteries and other products as well. We're hearing and seeing from our members that things like compressed gas cylinders, there's many different products that can be potentially explosive or catch fires. So we're really trying to raise awareness and work with producers and with policymakers to have more responsible end-of-life solutions for these items so they're not ending up in our collection vehicles. So continuing to work on this and push out the statement and raise awareness. That's it. You can contact me here again with any ideas or questions. I did go through this quickly in the interest of time. I know we want to have time at the end for Q&A. Sorry, I'm kind of rushed here, but if you do have more questions or want to discuss, we'll have some time here at the end. Thank you.
Perfect. Kristyn, I appreciate you sharing these great resources and updates with us. Our last speaker today is Mike Portannese, president of Gaeta Recycling Company, who was in fact our recent spotlight in our October issue. And he has a great safety program in place and is here to talk with you about what is involved with it. Mike?
Hey guys, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you yet.
Yeah, trying to figure that out. Give me 1 second. Hold on 1 sec. All right, let's see. How about now? Is that working, guys?
Not yet.
All right, sorry about that. 1 second. Odd. Should be working. I'm hitting the button to start it. Very, very, very odd. All right, my apologies. First and foremost, I do want to say good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much to Angelina and Waste Advantage, especially for the opportunity to speak to you all today. And again, thank you so much for allowing us to be the October spotlight. We greatly appreciate that. Hang on one second. Don't know why. Can't figure out the camera right this second. Nevertheless, we're not sharing any slides today. So with that being said, initially, if I'm not mistaken, this call was set up and around safety. And I want to thank everyone that spoke before me. Jeff Martin, I got a lot of great information from you and everyone prior to me. But pertaining to our company as a whole, we currently have 300 employees right now. And safety is one of the biggest and most important facets to our business. We've had some pretty extreme growth since 2017 until now. But with that being said, we've definitely invested a lot into our safety programs. First and foremost, I should let you know that we do have a dedicated safety officer who handles all of our monthly meetings. I should actually say bi-monthly meetings, hands out all of our newsletters, updates all of our employees, and keeps everyone abreast of any changes at our company, as well as 5 on-road supervisors. Those supervisors are on the road from first thing in the morning when the first truck rolls out until the last truck rolls back in at night. And we found that to be extremely valuable in the sense of hands-on training, as well as being proactive in the sense of visualizing any potential for safety-related issues or injuries. These gentlemen are not staying stagnant in, a specific town or area. They're constantly moving throughout, following up whether on new drivers, older drivers, problematic drivers, whatever it may be. So they leave every morning with their task, and they know to, check in throughout the day and let us know what they're visualizing out there in the field. We've found that to be extremely important and valuable. With pertaining to technology and safety, for years now, us as well as most companies out there, we've tracking software that notifies us when trucks are sitting for longer than X amount of time, as well as if going faster than specific speeds. We've partnered that with Motive cameras. So we've used probably every manufacturer out there, whether it be the drive cams, the Lytics, the Samsaras. We're currently with Motive, and we seem to like them a lot. We like them due to all of the sensors within the truck that pertain to harsh braking, quick turns and things of that nature, speeding, following people. So all of that we use on a monthly basis, and we're able to print out reports pertaining to each and every specific driver. And I believe it was Jeff that mentioned earlier pertaining to kind of like a scorecard and reporting. And we use that as more of a training method, as well as a way to communicate with the employees. We find it very important to be able to have that open dialogue, right? We don't want it in the sense of, oh, the safety manager's here. Here's the guy that's going to get me in trouble. No, we want it to be a revolving door in the sense of, if you feel there's a safety issue with your truck, if you feel that you don't have the proper PPE, if you've noticed something on the route that is potentially problematic, bring it to our attention. Let's work together as a team, because we are a team. And there's no reason to not treat business that way. Pertaining to the questions that were kind of laid out in front of us, one of which being, when you update and distribute company policy, do you hold a meeting to go over anything that has changed? And why is that important? Yes, we do. And it's very important to us that when there is any updates, whether to just strictly company policy and or safety related, we make sure to hold a meeting just pertaining to that change. And at that meeting, it would be explicitly explained to all of the employees what that change is, what it means. Do they understand it? If they have any questions pertaining to it, we do have a decent amount of Spanish speakers here, so we will bring translators to those meetings to translate to their language, as well as give out handouts in both English and Spanish. And before concluding any meeting, we do make sure, hey, is there anyone here that has any questions, does not understand, or needs us to elaborate? And we felt that that method is so much more proactive than just, here's your check, here's the flyer, sign on the dotted line, right? I think it allows us to engage with the employees that much more. And I think the employees appreciate it, and we feel it's came back tenfold from a safety perspective. talking about the new parts of your safety program that you implemented this year, and why do you feel it was important to focus on that as well? So us as a company, not just mainly this year, but over the last few years, we've invested heavily into the rail infrastructure. And what we found was a lot of those long straight job drives, like the tractor trailers going to the other state to dispose of at landfills, spending a lot of time behind the wheel. We had some accidents, significant accidents, right? You're on the highway, you're at higher speeds, you're driving for longer periods of time. So one of the ways to get, roughly 15 trucks a day off the road was to invest in the rail infrastructure. And in doing so, it's allowed us to cut down the on-road liability for that specific line of business, and that being the outbound trash from our facility. So we definitely felt that that was important by taking those specific trucks off the road and that specific line of business. We were able to replace that with the rail, and it's allowed us to become a lot more efficient and safe in that aspect. But as well as every year, we're reinvesting in equipment. We're reinvesting as us as a company. We're constantly keeping up with newer trucks and newer equipment because some of the older trucks, as we all know here, yes, insurance is probably the top three cost to all of our businesses, and it's necessary. You can only do as much as you can when it comes to training your employees because when we look at our loss runs and incidents that happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, a lot of which has to do with the public, and not the public in the sense where we're causing the accident. Listen, we live in a time now where everyone's on their cell phone. No one's paying attention to what's in front of them, right? No one's having conversations with anyone anymore. We're in the digital era now. So we find that, for us, we use the camera systems in our trucks to notify us if in the event any of our drivers are, by any chance using their phone behind the wheel, which thankfully we don't have that issue. And we've been very strict on that. We have a very tight company policy pertaining to that. But we have noticed that a lot of the accidents that happen pertain to the public, and the public just not paying attention, not paying attention to the garbage truck, not paying attention to the quantity of lifters or the gentleman working on the back, or where they are specifically on the street. So we try to do our best to hold meetings and train our employees to make sure their heads are on a swivel. Our biggest key takeaway is we want you to come to work, but mainly get home to your family safe every night, and that's the most important part to us. One of the questions that was asked was, why should an organization consider health and wellness an important component to their safety program? Very, very important. And there we go. We fixed the camera finally. Can you guys see me now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Sorry about that. I apologize. Okay. So why should an organization consider health and wellness an important component to their safety program? As we all on this call know, this industry, specifically garbage and recycling collection, whether you're on any line of that business, that being roll-off, front load, rear load commercial, working in a transfer station, working in a rail facility, it is extremely aggressive on us as humans. You endure a lot. You're working in every single type of weather that is out there. And with that being said, if you're not at your best, your 100%, your 110%, it allows the potential for something to happen. So we're very big on the sense of, if you don't feel good, don't come to work. Go get checked out, go to the doctor. If you're tired, if you had a long weekend, if something hurt, go get the necessary or seek the necessary help that's out there, rather than just try to come to work and not skate by, but try to push that to the side that you're potentially having an issue. Because it could turn into something a lot bigger and a lot worse for you as a person or as an employee. So we're very big on wellness in the sense of making sure our employees stay fit in a sense, right? We try to not require them, but we try to ask them to please, if possible, go to the gym, continue to move, whether it's the weekend, the days off. So that way, when you come to work, you're somewhat loose. We hold plenty of meetings pertaining to lifting with your knees, not using your back, not throwing out your back, how to utilize the PPE, wearing the proper boots. And I think all of that dives into the health and wellness. It's extremely important, right? Summer months, it's 100 degrees, 95 degrees, and these guys are, loading a rear load truck. I have this conversation with my municipalities all the time. No one realizes that those two guys that are working on the back of the truck could load anywhere from, 10 to 14 tons of material in the back of that truck in any given 6 to 8 hour shift. Well, most people go to the gym and they don't lift that much weight in a month, right? So with that being said, it applies to whether in the rain, the snow, or the sun, to just make sure you're in the best possible shape you can be in, as well as knowing what you're getting yourself into, right? Especially new people on the job. We want to make sure that they're capable of, and they don't push themselves past their limits or their capacities, because that's when you have, people passing out with heat stroke, and things of that nature. So thankfully, through training and through communicating with our employees, I think we have a really good report, as well as we haven't had any major issues with our employees when it comes to their health and wellness. One of the other questions was, all components of your safety program are important, but do you consider one or two to be essential to operating safely at Gaeta? My biggest thing is, whether safety or just business in general, is communication. I think every single one of our employees, that being 300, they are all assets to this company, and every single one of them is treated that way. They are the eyes and ears to this business. So what they're seeing and hearing on the road, especially pertaining to safety, is extremely important to us at our core, because what they relay back to us does not fall on deaf ears, right? So with that being said, we are extremely involved with every employee, every single pay period, which is bi-weekly. We're communicating with them. We're going over the motive reports pertaining to, like I said, the cameras in the trucks. We're talking about the upcoming weather, the inclement storms, things of that nature. Summer months, this is something that I like to mention. We rented a commercial walk-in freezer, and we get bags of ice delivered, and every single truck gets a cooler with bags of ice, so they can keep cold bottles of water as well as cold rags in that cooler to help with the hotter months. So these, there's a lot of things that we've done that my safety officer, as well as my supervisors, who were actually at one point, they were all lifters, and they've worked their way up through the ranks. We try to hire within, that have brought insight to us, ownership, and say, hey, we should tweak this. I noticed this when I was at that level, or I was this employee. By making these changes, we can ensure that the men get home or get back to their families safely. And again, we're all ears with that. You're only as good as what's being relayed to you. So that's why we try to pay attention as much as possible. Well, every part of our safety program contributes to our success. Two elements stand out and absolutely essential. So just training and continuing communication with our employees, as well as continuously following up with them, making sure they don't have any questions, and if they do, answering them in a timely fashion, as well as just letting them know what's coming down the pike, right? So we're going into winter months. It's going to be slippery. Make sure you're aware of that. Make sure you have your boots. Pay attention to black ice, holding on to the back of the truck. The steps could be slippery, things of that nature. We try to give them as much information as possible, because sometimes when you're out on a specific route, whether front load, roll off, rear load, you're so in tune to what your job or your task is, there are things that could potentially slip to the wayside. So we want to make sure it's continuously brought to the front of their mind. That way, when they're in those scenarios, they can refer back to their training, and make sure it's still fresh, right? So we make sure that's very, very important. Our supervisors do a really, really great job of, following up with the trucks. If they see there's an issue on the route, making sure the truck stops, talking to the driver, talking to the lifters, making sure everyone has their PPE. I think we've really tightened that up over the last few years by hiring more supervisors and putting more supervisor pickup trucks on the road. All of our supervisors are trained in CPR and basic first aid. We have AED systems in all of our buildings that everyone is trained on. And, we do whatever we can to continuously invest in safety, as well as learn from our peers, learn from the others in the industry, and, see what's happened. I don't know if you guys saw, but 2 weeks ago, we had a front load truck catch on fire. It's, nature of the industry. It's the nature of the beast. And it was, ended up being just a small piece of material that made its way underneath the front overhang behind the cab and landed on the engine. The driver thankfully wasn't hurt, and he, went back to his training of get the truck away from any buildings, any cars, make sure no one is present, see if he can extinguish it with a fire extinguisher extremely fast. And if he can't within the first few seconds, we tell him to potentially push the load out if possible and get the heck out of there. Call 911, call the fire department, and then notify us as a company and our safety department. And he did everything pertaining to his training. And you know what? It's a shame to lose a vehicle, but the takeaway is the employee was fine and he did everything that we, request or require of them based off of their training. So in whole, that's still a win, even though we lost that piece of equipment. The fact that the employee was calm and did everything that was, required of them and are safe, that's a win. That's what's really important to us. Trucks can be replaced, but personnel can't, right? That's kind of what I had for today. Insurance, I'm sure, as all of you know, or the operators on this call know, has been going up astronomically year after year. And I know someone else mentioned, but the cost of the claims are no longer what they used to be, and they're inflated drastically. The cost of the equipment is higher than anyone, I think, has ever expected. And I think as a whole and in the industry, we just have to continue to train our employees and, just be ready for whatever is coming down the road. That's pretty much it. That's what I have.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for all that great information. There's a lot of stuff in there for others to consider and to think about. And I'm going to ask all the speakers to turn back on their cameras and their audio so we can get started on some Q&A. So one of the first questions I have is, what advice would you have for organizations that may need to rebuild their safety programs or their culture from the ground up?
Is this for the whole or is this for me directly, Angelina?
For the whole.
Oh, for the whole. I mean, I'll go first if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think with that being said, I think you just, from the ground up is a great spot, right? Because you get to determine how you want to train your employees, and you can learn from past instances that maybe got you back down to that ground level. But I think the biggest key takeaway is the communication. You need your employees on your side. And I think I could speak for some of the others here. I know when the implementation of the driver facing and forward facing cameras, I think I could speak for most people that their employees were initially against it. But having that communication with your employees and letting them realize the benefits of that technology, which it truly is a benefit to the employee, that is the biggest takeaway. That open line of communication and leveling with your employees and letting them really understand and feel that you are for them. You want them to make it home. They're not just a number. You know every person's by their first name, their last name, their family members' names. That's the most important. Once you get that in line, anything you're going to train with them, they are going to be extremely receptive.
Yeah, this is David. I was just going to add on to that, building off of something that Jeff Martin said. It starts at the top, right? It's not about starting with technology. It's about leadership, explaining to the entire team why safety matters and walking the walk and just not talking the talk on safety. And then there's a number of tools you can implement to make safety happen and improve your numbers. But you have to start at the top. And that was something that Jeff had in his presentation that I think is 100% accurate.
I'd like to add to that as well. I'm excited to share that SWANA is working on a new safety course offering. This is along with Scott Griffith, who was Chief Safety Officer for American Airlines, has what is called the Collaborative Just Culture program. So it really is looking at that leadership and embedding safety within the organization. So it could be from, how do you start new? This course would really teach you how to do that. We're actually having a webinar in January where Scott will be talking more about it. And this isn't unique to our industry. This is a course, we actually have heard from one of our members earlier today who used to be in the healthcare industry that she did this course when in the healthcare industry. So it's also an opportunity to learn from other industries and kind of have some of that cross collaboration. So I think this will be a good resource. I just wanted to share that as well.
Great. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, David's right. I mean, the leadership sets the tone, right? And they set the table for success, essentially. And I would only also add that while you're focusing on your people, and focus on those processes and programs. And keep that building block approach. And really, at the end of the day, for the front lines, it's about focusing on the fundamentals. We were talking earlier about safety, backing. Well, look, it's fundamental, right? And where you see the safety failures that Lloyd did a great job pointing out, they're pretty obvious to a lot of us, but really it's just a lack of focus on the fundamentals. And so if you do that, people understand it's not a hard thing we're asking. We're just asking you to think about what it is that you can do safely to protect yourself and the communities we serve.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Jason, so you had some great information about using the data. What are the first steps to organizing all of it since it could be really overwhelming?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's actually a super common question that, I get almost daily, to be honest with you, or talking to customers or even people that are considering putting in safety programs. But I think really when it gets down to this is yes, you're going to be capturing a ton of data and it can be super overwhelming. But really focus on like your main things. Like come up with like clear goals. So like if you want to reduce car accidents or collisions or claims and things like that, just have like start with small and say, okay, let's reduce some sort of distracted driver behavior by like 20%. Let's focus on that aspect of things. But I typically suggest with anybody is just, hey, take your time. You don't have to ingest all this data and get overwhelmed because then we start to spin out and then it just creates way bigger messes. Another thing too is a lot of the platforms, definitely with Geotab, we have like built-in AI tools. If there's something specific that you want to look like, hey, I want to see my top 5% of worst drivers, you can use our ACE AI tool and just type that in. Who are my top 5% worst drivers? And you'll get all of that stuff right out.
Yeah.
Great.
If I could just add along the same lines, taking advantage of the video safety technology is really the game changer today for a program that's looking to get to the next level that hasn't taken advantage of that AI. To Jason's point, the ability for AI to detect someone picking up a handheld device, to not wearing their seatbelt, to following too close, to being inattentive, to speed. For the great news about it today, video safety technology in the cab, it can alert the driver immediately with both visual and audible alerts that allows the driver to self-correct in the moment. And when they're able to do that, they feel good about themselves. And they understand what's expected, or it's reinforced, and they can self-correct in the moment. A lot of, unfortunately, the video safety of yesterday is reactive. It tells us what happened. This allows us to understand and self-correct in the moment. And when we can't do that, who needs to have a coaching conversation the next day or at the end of a shift?
Absolutely.
Right. So a lot of the talk in general and actually at Archon as well was those professionals that are retiring and the new generations that are coming in. So how can those that are retiring mentor that new generation that's being hired?
Yeah, let me take a first crack at that if it's okay. That's a growing issue in the industry. There's a lot of people who've been working 20, 30, 35 years, and they've either retired or they're on their way out. And the new people who are coming in um, don't have the same level of experience. They're all digital natives, so they're used to holding their phone all the time, and they perhaps don't have the same understanding about what happens if for just 5 seconds you're not paying attention to a safety rule. Like, oh, it's not going to matter. I'm at a stop sign. I can look at my phone. Or, oh, I'm just going to undo my seatbelt because we're only going a block. There's a real need in the industry right now to refocus on safety fundamentals, backing properly, not in violation of the ANSI standard, not being on the riding step if you're going faster than 10 miles an hour or any distance over whatever's in the ANSI standard, keeping the seatbelt on at all times. There's really a need for that because many of the recent fatalities that we've had have, as an industry, and I'm thinking about worker fatalities here, are due to simply ignoring best practices in the sometimes chronically and sometimes in the heat of the moment. A worker in the industry got run over by his own truck earlier this week in a major city in North America. In November, A guy wasn't wearing his safety belt on Long Island. He flipped the truck, and he unfortunately was killed. Neither of those incidents had to happen. And we really need to drill down on the fundamentals, the five to stay alive thing that exists at SWANA would be a good example of that. If everybody put that in their workplace, we'd be a safer industry.
So one of the questions that popped up was how can the industry do a better job informing city planning or commercial residential property design to ensure safer and more effective waste collection within certain areas? He said it's too much of an afterthought still until something bad happens.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think understanding starts times and the accessibility on streets is important. And then really, when you look at the with the rear load trucks, while they're a great convenience and they solve a lot of opportunities for both residential and commercial collection, especially in rural counties, there still is an opportunity to take a look at the automated side load trucks, where it reduces from two men to one man, two men to one man, and most importantly, it keeps that worker out of the roadway. But sadly, when you see the fatalities in the country, they're typically involving the helper out of the truck being struck, and that's unfortunate, right? And so that's something that really helps, and even in neighborhoods where you can convert neighborhoods, you get even municipalities and towns to understand that 96-gallon carts, 45-gallon carts do in fact improve aesthetics, but it also helps us protect our workforce, and we're able to safely and efficiently service you, providing great service. So working with counties, towns, municipalities, being able to carry that message as an industry is really important.
Right. Lloyd, what do you find is the number one reason for injuries or fatalities?
Well, I think you're going to find that what SWANA is indicating is rear loaders for OSHA type related fatalities. It's the writing step. I mean, it's all the work and activities working around that double siding. It's because we've got people on the ground getting on and off moving equipment in traffic, and that's the issue. And so, as long as we continue to do residential and rear load routes like that and commercial routes, that's a problem. Automation is obviously a simple answer to that, but enforcing those from a positive coaching and making sure that we've got the right coaching and enforcement of those rules, and go out there and catch people doing things right. People asking how you change safety culture. You got to catch people doing right. And I mean, I can follow somebody and find something doing wrong. Everybody can do that. It's reinforcing it from a positive standpoint and encouraging that, making sure they got the right training, what you expect of them, and reinforce that with them each and every day. That the supervisors have got to get out. And you talked about the aging workforce. You've got to get these young guys out on the routes. They've got to go out there and talk to the drivers. They've got to get out in the field. They've got to do those sort of things. That's a piece that we're missing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they got to view it as coaching. And use that old rule I mentioned earlier about 2 recognitions for 1 improvement opportunity. So for example, maybe they're speeding or what have you, but maybe you're able to say, hey, thank you very much for having your seatbelt on and not being on your phone. Really appreciate it. But man, what can we do to help you understand the importance of speeding? What can we do to help you, and how do you see it? That's a totally different conversation than jumping on for speeding.
Yeah, right. Jeff, you're 100% right. It's not about gotcha. It's about here's what you did well. Thank you for that, that, and that. But by the way, on Elm Street, I noticed that you didn't come to a complete stop at the stop sign. Right. I've been in those sessions now, and it's incredible how much more positively the driver receives that information when it's framed in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mike, so when you had mentioned that you have Spanish speakers on your staff, there was a question about when training with staff in any language, do supervisors go back after training with the tailgate talks and ask employees to verify that they comprehended the prior week's training?
Oh, 1000%. So I appreciate your question. But so our supervisors, like I said earlier, do follow up with every truck, not just specific trucks. And it's to ensure that what they were trained on or explained to them is actually being portrayed on the route, right? It's for their own safety. But I think the biggest takeaway is what everyone has said is just that positive reinforcement, right? So when there is an issue, it's communicating it to the employee as well as pointing out some of the good things that they've done. And I think that's the best way to convey as well as to continuously train the employees. If they feel as if they're always being or getting in trouble, getting written up, whatever it may be, it's very hard and they're not as receptive, right? But there are times when it comes to the reports through motive where they get scored based off of the good things they've done. So when you're bringing that to their attention, they don't realize that the AI or the technology is actually doing that from a calculated perspective, right? They're so busy doing their route. So when you bring it to their attention that, hey, and by the way, we saw that a while ago, you had this issue where you were doing a rolling stop through stop signs. You haven't done it in so long. And we viewed you really taking your time and making sure you're stopping and making sure that you've made the change that we've requested of you for your own safety and everyone else. That goes a long way when you communicate it to them in that way. And again, back to whether English or Spanish speaking, we have supervisors that are actually on the route that are Spanish speaking as well. So it's not as if they're only spoken to in Spanish and then never followed up with. They are followed up with supervisors that can get to them on the route. And hey, by the way, in Spanish, of course, thank you for listening and wearing your PPE. This was brought to our attention pertaining to you a few weeks back, and it seems as if you've really made changes and we're receptive to what we had to tell you. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job. And I think by communicating in that manner, that's how it reverberates through the entire company. When you have that form of communication with your employees, I mean, even me as president of the company, I have an open door policy. Every single one of every 300 of my employees knows if there's ever an issue, come see me. Come sit down. There's no layers to our business. And we want it to be known that way. And I think by having that level of communication, you could see the difference on paper. You could see the difference in our safety and our loss runs and things of that nature.
Excellent. So turning a little bit over to SWANA, Kristyn, so how would one become a SWANA safety ambassador?
Yeah, thanks for that question. As I mentioned, this is a really important volunteer role. So I would say talk to your chapter leadership, or if you're not sure who that is, you can talk to me. And we do like at least one chapter to have a safety ambassador, but certainly welcome to have more, more the merrier to support our safety efforts. And this role is really like at the chapter meetings, they can share updates. As I send out updates, they could reshare them. We actually had a safety ambassador meeting right before this webinar. So we had a really good conversation there. So we meet regularly and continue to share out updates. So if somebody is interested in getting involved, let me know. Or we're looking for volunteers for all types of things related to safety. So if you're not sure about taking on a whole leadership role like that, but you maybe just want to share some ideas or experience, there's many different ways to get involved. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
And you had mentioned the new resource, the safety tips and tricks. How was the content chosen?
Yeah, thank you. We're excited about this resource. So it is a little bit of as I mentioned, SWANA has members from throughout the industry, right? So there's like many different things to think about with safety. So we really tried to look at a representation of just different components. So no matter what your role is, there should be something for you in there. Safety should be everybody's job. So being able to look through this guide, you can get tips relevant maybe to what you do, but also get a sense of topics that maybe aren't directly related to what you do every day, but will help you give some awareness. So they were chosen based on having a good range of, different types of job functions, and also, just keeping it simple, things that are actually practicable to use in day-to-day work. And so, yeah, we're already getting good feedback from that and hearing that, people are downloading it and using it as they discuss safety with their teams or even, in their own work to refer to.
Excellent. One of the questions that I want to address before the last one is somebody had asked, is there any recommendations on implementing an incentive program for safety? Are there any good examples of programs that are rewarding drivers on their paychecks being safe?
Yeah, I can actually jump in on that. I was actually just typing an answer, so glad I can share this. But with Geotab, we have a program called Vitality, and that actually correlates with all the data that's put into Geotab and parameters set up that rewards good driving behaviors, whether it's, not speeding or improving on speeding, using your seatbelt, not hard accelerations and things like that. And drivers are able to earn points and collect rewards such as, pretty much a lot of things. Like you get up to, I want to say it's like $500 a year, probably more than that actually, now that I think about that. But you can save all your rewards points. It's almost like going to Starbucks, right? You go and buy your Starbucks coffee, you get your stars. Same concept where then drivers can utilize those points and claim rewards, whether it's, Starbucks gift cards or, headsets or whatever it might be. So there's definitely programs out there, and I can put a link to the Geotab Vitality into that so you can look into it more.
Okay, great. Jeff and Mike, do you have does Casella and Gaeta have an incentive program for safety?
Yeah.
Jeff, go for it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. Yes, we do. We do not have a formal one for the corporation. However, we do allow that ingenuity and creativity at the local level, and we find that that's often a little bit more effective and in tune with the interests and the opportunities for next level achievements in safety.
And for us, we actually do gift cards, right? So we rank up a ton of American Express points. We buy a whole bunch of gift cards, and we always have them on hand. That's one of the perks of this business is millions of points. But with that being said, we try to hold our drivers to a high standard, right? Especially from a hiring perspective, we make sure to do really good background checks on them and do really good initial safety training, as well as this is what it's expected of you, right? So I don't, think I need to give you a gift card for wearing your seatbelt, right? You should wear your seatbelt because you want to get home to your family at night. But hey, listen, if you didn't get into an accident for the last 6 months, or you made sure to be that much more aware behind the wheel, then you know what? Then I think you deserve a gift card. So we do have incentives when it comes to that, but not necessarily, you stopped braking so hard this week. I'm going to give you a gift card so you could start again tomorrow. We look at it more on a bigger spectrum. But again, from a transfer station perspective, safety is key. We have supervisors constantly walking around, making sure PPE is being worn, constantly buying lunch for the guys, and doing little perks and things like that. Our Christmas party, just like all of yours, I'm sure, is coming up, where we do tons of raffles, where it's now to the point where every single person wins. And we've realized that is just the best way to do it. It gets the energy flowing. Everyone loves it, and they look forward to it every year. But we definitely do the gift cards pertaining to, safety and making sure there's no accidents and things of that nature.
Angelina, can I add one thing to this? I think Michael's right that we evolved from sort of recognition gift cards where, wow, you didn't, run the red light. Here's a gift card. I think that is the thought process from 15 years ago. The one thing I want to add is companies should be making that recognition public and not just doing it privately, because otherwise you're losing some of the benefit. If you give Joe the gift card in front of the 25 other people in the crew, the 25 other people are like, oh, I want to be like Joe. I want to get that recognition from the boss, or I want to
Yeah.
get that Home Depot gift card. So that's really, to me, an important piece of what you're discussing, Mike.
Yeah, no, that's really, really important. You're 100% right. And I think, with us, whether people are actually friends at the company or there's different cliques with different employees, it reverberates, and when you're communicating to them, whether writing them up or, talking to them about something they did wrong or right, these guys and girls, I should say, communicate more than you realize.
Oh, they talk to each other. Oh,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
and especially from a gift card perspective, before you know, I'll get the random text message, "Oh man, I can't wait for me to get that gift card," and it's like, wow, they are communicating. Okay.
Yep.
Listen, we do have a decent amount of people, but we are a family as a whole, from every driver to every lifter. I mean, years ago, we used to use staffing agencies for our employees, for the gentlemen that work on the back of the truck. And on a random like Wednesday, we got a call that the staffing agencies can no longer insure that line of business. They said by Friday, we don't know what to tell you. So we went out and we ended up hiring all of the employees from those staffing agencies. And I have to be honest with you, it's about 100 guys now. It was the best thing we could have ever done. They get paid more money, right? Because it's not a state-ran fund. They're making more money, which was great. And there are employees to train and invest in. They're not getting swapped out every other day, not showing up. They're held to a higher expectancy. And for us, I think that was really, really key. You know, you see them coming to the Christmas party and things of that nature. And just, I mean, the sweatshirts, the t-shirts, and all of that, they love it. They're part of the family, the team.
Fantastic. So a question for everybody, last question. If you were going to recommend that a hauler, municipal agency, etc., would do one thing, what would it be?
Or municipal
Mine would be to get the senior leadership engaged in the safety program, because they will drive that culture. Trying to drive it from the bottom up is difficult. From the top down, it works a lot better. It's a lot quicker, and it's a lot more efficient. So you really got to get your senior managers on board in the way of just encouraging and coaching, but also in equipment purchases and attitudes will start to change.
I'm going to take an opposite approach than Lloyd. The first thing you need to do is look at your data. The first thing you need to do is evaluate where you are before you can decide where you need to go. Some companies run rear loaders. They're going to have different safety challenges than companies running ASLs. And the Northeast is much more challenging than, the suburban Southwest. And so I think the first thing you do is you look at your data, and that gives you a roadmap to doing the type of thing that Lloyd said.
I would reaffirm. Yeah, I would reaffirm that, David. And then I would couple it with an intense focus on people, processes, programs, and performance management. Keep that in your, for a forward view. If you do that, you won't fall off the rails. You'll drive efficiencies besides safety. There's no doubt about it. Everybody will understand.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, those are definitely key points and what I would suggest as well. So you guys beat me to it.
It's less self-serving because you didn't say it, Jason.
I know. Hey, I know. I was like, hey, by telematic. I'm just kidding.
I think as a whole in the industry, I think there just needs to be a higher level of expectancy from all of the employees. And I think all of the haulers, I want to speak for myself, but it needs to be more equal in the sense of investing in their employees and safety. I mean, the thought of getting into a captive style insurance program when there could be someone else in there that doesn't invest as much in their employees or doesn't care as much to be on a call like this and talk about safety, right? I think there needs to be a higher standard across the industry pertaining to the safety of our individuals. Within this industry, it's extremely dangerous. We talked a little bit about the batteries. I mean, we had a fire in our front loader last week, and then 3 weeks ago, we had a fire in our transfer station. One was battery related, and one was garbage getting behind the cab. I mean, it is one of the most well-known things in this industry when it comes to fire and accidents and damages and things like that. I just think it needs to be held to a higher standard across the board where all companies, from a training perspective, and the employees need to live up to X. I think we need to be a little bit more strict on the hiring process and training. And I think we need to be a little bit less lenient when it comes to, hopefully they don't do that again, right? Should have never happened the first time. And I think if you're a little bit more strict, but in a manner where you have that open communication with your employees, it'll benefit the entire company, the municipalities, everyone will benefit from it.
Yeah. And I think, and Michael, just to reinforce one thing, I think a great example, what you said about the industry really focusing together. I think it's when you look at what has been able to be done with the post-collection facilities, the MRFs, the transfer stations and landfills over the last 5 to 10 years, as far as uniform rules, everybody has to follow the rules. And the post-collection safety for the industry, in my opinion, has improved. There's no stats exactly but when you look at the individual companies I'm familiar with, they've improved. That's because everybody agreed with SWANA and NWRA. Hey, these are the rules. These are the things contributing. These are contributing factors to serious injuries and fatalities. And so when we all focus on those rules together and hold one another accountable, it makes a difference in the industry. We've got to move more on that towards the collection side as well. Doing it for the individual frontline employees and the communities we serve, absolutely, but also our commitment overall as an industry, safer industry.
Amen.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree. I would agree.
Exactly. Kristyn, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think something to think about, safety isn't in a silo, right? So something we were talking about just in the previous meeting with the safety ambassadors, like HR has a role, finance has a role. So that to that point of getting leadership involved, it's like your whole organization leadership. Like sometimes safety improvements will require funding, right? So if you think about um, yeah, complying with regulations, heat safety, everything else, sometimes you do need some investment. So having your finance team involved in that, having HR involved in how do you make people feel safe in reporting things and not, just having them be in trouble if they report. So really having that holistic approach to safety and not just having one safety person and thinking like, okay, we checked the box on safety. So that's just my recommendation or reminder to get your whole organization involved.
Great. Excellent. Well, we're going to wrap it up for today. I'm going to share my screen again with your shots. Sorry. With your mug shots. And, thank you to all of you so much for taking the time to participate and share your knowledge on safety issues and collection. And of course, thank you to our sponsors who made it possible. Our platinum sponsors, Geotab and Vizia, our gold sponsors, Meridian Waste and Waste and Recycling Workers Week, and our silver sponsors, ALG Labels and Graphics and RouteSmart. So keep up to date on news and events every day by subscribing to Waste Advantage newsletter. We're, covering safety issues is important to us. And we hope that everyone has taken something away from this webinar, as well as the one that was on post-collection in October. We will be sharing our webinar safety series dates for 2026 coming up soon. The link for this webinar will be available to those who registered by the end of the week. And the webinar will also be shared online on our website by the end of next week. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I appreciate everybody attending the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Angelina.
Thank you all.
So much.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.